Hey, everybody. Huge news. It's another episode of Cannabis Legalization news. We have a lot to cover this week. It's pretty big. There's some big news out of Illinois. And not only that, there's big news out of New York, the Senate with Chuck Schumer. And then also the IRS is going to be in our How to Cannabis segment at the end. So let's get into it. First, this show is brought to you by Collateral Base, helping your business navigate the complex cannabis industry. Go ahead and check them out. And now let's do something that you have to be 21 plus to get into. Talk about the legal cannabis industry.
What's up?
Wednesday, it's another cannabis legalization news rundown. Miggy, how was your week?
Good, and thank you for the people who noticed that we weren't there Sunday. Like, we just took the day off for the moms, and thanks for noticing that whatever pre-roll show that came out was not a live one. And happy late Mother's Day to everybody, and hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. Like, shares, and subscribes, of course. And then let's get into our first story of the week. It's a pretty big one. Go ahead, Miggy. Let's roll this one up, and I'll roll up some weed.
Got you. Schumer says he's discussed marijuana bill with 6 Republicans in speech at NYC legalization rally. So thank you, Marijuana Moment, for your always on the go reporting.
Yeah, they're looking for new money. So if you haven't supported Marijuana Moment yet, consider joining their Patreon. Marijuana Moment. Yeah. Hopefully one day we'll have Tom Engel on here, but he's quite busy, tracking thousands of bills to legalize cannabis and also psilocybin. Psilocybin.
So the second year in a row, the leader participated in New York cannabis parade and rally. They didn't have one here in Washington State, I'm sad to say. Also making appearances was the House Judiciary Committee, Jared Nadler, whose bill to federally legalize marijuana passed the full chamber last month. I just really wish he would just get off his ass and just do it. Give it a chance. The MORE Act. Why are you talking to Republicans right now? Why is he even pandering? There's a bill. Pull the MORE Act out. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. You're gonna, pony up.
Yeah, seriously. Why? What's wrong with it? But it's indicating bipartisan support that he's reaching out to these 6 senators, or they actually just said 6 Republicans about his speech that he had in New York. So did he even name the 6?
No. And I want to know though, did he talk about what, the Caca bill, or did he talk about actual the MORE Act and hey, if I put this on the floor? No, he talked about the Caca bill.
Yeah, well, that's his particular bill. I'm sure that he's trying to get out from there. And he did. We have a quote from Chuck Schumer, by the way. I have invited every U.S. senator, every Democrat, every Republican to come meet with us and tell us why they won't support the bill or whether they will. And I'm making good progress. I've already met with 6 Republicans, so we can get 10, and we can get the 60 votes we need on the floor of the Senate to pass legislation that is so important. Meanwhile, people are being armed robbery, and maybe even injured or killed while they're working that dispensary because of the huge theft risk that comes from having an industry that deals in cash and cash equivalents, meaning cannabis.
But it's just frustrating because while the Republicans are busy creating the Handmaid's Tale, these guys have a perfect opportunity, the Democrats, to legalize weed, to get this shit and make it better for everybody. It doesn't matter what party you are. The MORE Act, descheduling it, I think that's 90% of what we need, for progress, to get the ball rolling for the actual industry, right? Because what we see now is just a bunch of, how many states are legal? 30? So what?
The number of states that are medically legal is 37 or 38, and the ones that are adult use is 18 or 19.
And how many
I'm usually off by about 1, but hey, if you're off by about 1 too, welcome to Cannabis Legalization News.
But how many MSOs though? How many monopolies are going on right now because descheduling hasn't happened? Or
limited licenses,
yes.
Limited licenses, putting the price up. So all those good people that call me from Mississippi, and you should, or Virginia, Georgia sometimes, poor Georgia. All those states that have these licensing structures where it's exceedingly limited and the barrier to entry is in the high millions, the tens of millions. That is not doing any favors for this industry, for the mom and pop entrepreneurs that want to get started with less than 100 plants. And then the dispensary aspect of it, maybe a lot of those security protocols that we need would be less essential if the Safe Banking Act would pass. And so there wasn't just cash on hand, cash or weed, and both on hand at these dispensaries. There would be still some weed, some cash, and of course weed, but the amounts of cash would go down substantially.
There wouldn't be targets. Washington State had 50 armed robberies in the beginning of the year already. So, 50 out of how many pashas? But the MORE Act's not perfect. The CACA bill is not perfect. None of these things are going to be perfect. But the fact is, we have one halfway through. It's like, why are we betting on another horse? Can we just get through this race first? This one thing that it's so hard, the judiciary process. It's taken 50 years to get to this point for the future of like Republican shit, like their agenda, let alone legalization, let alone something that's going to be for the betterment of all, for all Americans, like equally. This is so frustrating to just see be stagnant.
Yep, it really is. It really is. But what can you do?
Yeah, let's bitch about it on Cannabis Legalization News. That's what you can't do, man.
That's what you came for. You came for us to talk about the federal news, and so we're talking about it. Chuck Schumer's trying to get those 10 Republicans on board so he can bring it up to the floor and then pass it and have a veto-proof majority. Will he do it? I don't know.
Again, there's already a bill halfway there. He just needs to put the other one on the floor. You're the leader, bro. Like, there's nothing more to say after that. You are literally the one that's like, you're the McConnell of your party, holding everybody back because you don't want to see another, bullshit.
Well,
so we have possibilities for this year too, right?
What's that? Oh, that's another story. Is that up in our story, or is this something else? No, let's hit the next one and talk about this.
Should it be trending?
Yep. Sure. Let's do some trending.
Wait. So quiet. The MJ Biz Daily. A few states could still legalize marijuana through legislatures this year. So I didn't see what states it was, though. We got remain this year, legalize medical recreational marijuana through legislation, but other efforts have faltered. So we're looking at Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Delaware, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kansas, Minnesota, New Hampshire. Then I think Minnesota has recreational already. So this will be interesting to watch, just to see how many more states knock out, cross that barrier between recreational and medical, right? Delaware is going to go for recreational. Kansas and North Carolina are all both medical, and strong chances of passing. So, good luck to you guys. And then again, these are just things that are going to happen no matter what. The toothpaste has been out of the tube
for way too long. Way too long.
There's no now. So, like the original purpose of the law was to hinder a certain category of citizens, and now it's affecting everybody because people are realizing this goddamn plant is for the human. Like, hey, we're people. That's how that works. Not machines. We all have endocannabinoid systems, just like the nervous system. It's just sad that this is what prohibition does. It has hurt us more than it has made us better. Recreational, yeah. Are you doing some pro formas there, buddy? You working on some?
No. The person who does the cannabis overlay screwed up, and he didn't put it in the Slack channel, and now we're live. And then I'm trying to get this thing downloaded off the Slack channel so we can have our name that strain.
Yeah,
I tell you, like some people just want to get fired.
So expected to pass this year. We got Rhode Island for recreational. You probably have some. And once these go recreational, is that when you're going to start pinging them for like, hey, licenses and stuff? Or are you going to have packets ahead of time? How are you going to be doing that?
Well, it's we're still closed, and I've been interviewing people, but trying to find people that are good in the industry is tough, especially when you're remote. And so I don't know, like when a licensed state comes up, I read the license and I create content, and then I've been doing enough work that I've tried to train people to do that for me, and it's just running a business is hard. Trying to find good employees is hard.
No, I feel you. I mean, especially you are an entrepreneur. So back to this Rhode Island bill, though, some business details. 60 plus existing medical cannabis cultivators would control the market for at least the first 2 years. Another monopoly. The legislative measures are envision 24 retail licenses, with 6 going to social equity applicants. I'm confused then. So after the 2 years, I guess this is when that part takes place for applicants. So, let's see what the next step is. Delaware recreational possible passage this year. Delaware would be a nice place to smoke weed. What they got going for business details? Would permit 30 retail store licenses, including 15 for social equity applicants, 30 processor licenses, including 10 for equity applicants. All right, so they're setting aside licenses for equity applicants. So hey, you got arrested in Delaware, check it out.
Yep. Until a lawyer like me sues pursuant to the Dormant Commerce Clause and gets all those social equity licenses that are created because of residency kicked.
Well, and I wondered though if the requirement for like any of these states when they say social equity, the hot word, the buzzword that gets everybody all triggered.
Mm-hmm.
You said it before where it has to be defined in the law, right? You have to define who this person is, the social equity person is, and it's always going to come down to an arrest. But I wonder if that arrest is something that happened in that state, or does it have to be in the nation, right? Because a lot of people
can't be in that state. If it's in that state, you have a Dormant Commerce Clause problem because then it's one state preferencing its own citizens at the expense of others. So, like New Jersey does a great job of having an unconstitutional, constitutional social equity program where the qualifying arrest and conviction can happen anywhere. But if you were a longtime resident of a particular jurisdiction, it has to have been in New Jersey in a particular zip code. And that means that an out-of-state resident can't get the license and they could bring a Dormant Commerce Clause action.
Yeah, because all my arrests happen in California, so that would be something that would have to happen. Mm-hmm. Worth watching is Pennsylvania.
I wonder if Pennsylvania is definitely worth watching.
For recreational, you know how we talked about with that one senator, and hopefully this is the bill where they had that craft grow tiered licensing. I really like that. So you can do a home grow, and if you want to get involved into the recreational market, which is, God forbid, enables citizens to make money and flourish, I think that'd be a great way to do it.
Yeah, there's that, but then it's kind of like cottage industry regulations, and so making food in your kitchen and selling them at farmers markets. That has happened in many jurisdictions. I don't know how long it's going to take before weeds like that. I mean, I saw some news out of California about how they may start allowing farmers markets for cannabis in the near future, but it's regulation, man. It's crazy.
It's not just regulation. We still it's a freaking agriculture product, which somehow people can't wrap their heads around because they're getting rejected in the recent California farmers for the drought. Right? There's a lot of this subsidies for water for the farms. None of the cannabis people are getting that. None. Nope. So they are recognized for their money that they bring in, but they're not recognized for it just being the goddamn agriculture product.
All right. Well, there are some that are possible, and some that are little chance, and some that are expected, and some that are worth watching. If you go to this MJ Biz Daily, shout out to them, their article. And it really appears, though, that, if you're putting North Carolina, South Carolina, and Kansas impossible, no, they're not. Maybe Kansas, but I thought North and South Carolina, and I had read some news out of Marijuana Moment that both of their bills have now died. New Hampshire, that's too bad that they haven't gotten their act together. And Minnesota, it is frustrating. Minnesota's medical market is almost as bad as the one on the East Coast and how Illinois was prior to its legalization. But these states, hopefully Pennsylvania, the problem with Pennsylvania is similar to the problem with like Wisconsin in the sense, and Michigan as well, but Michigan evidently more free enterprise Republicans there. So when you have redistricting in state legislatures, even though you have a swing state that's about 50-50, the redistricting can, move the needle on it by quite a bit. Like Wisconsin, they will sometimes vote for the Republican, sometimes vote for the Democrat for president, but because they're about a 50-50, 49-51, somewhere in there. However, their legislature is 2/3 Republican because they have gerrymandered the shit out of that state.
Yeah, well, that's the majority of these states right now. They're gerrymandering just to stay alive, to stay relevant, which is kind of sad because it just seems like if And it happens in either party, right? They're constantly trying to rig the game so they can always just stay in power or whatever. That's the end game is power. But when it comes to legalization, though, if this one or twin powers fucking activate,
Yeah,
get your shit together.
seriously.
All right.
But then that's something with stocks, because everything's sold off. The stock market's in a bear market, and recession's probably going to be here in another 3-6 months. But the marijuana stocks are down like 66%. So let's do a stock bumper and talk.
I got you.
Yeah. Do you have the cannabis stock news up, though?
I do. Economic challenge may extend U.S. marijuana stock woes.
Yes. Show the chart, Miggy.
Yes.
This is also out of Jeff Smith. He is all over the place in today's episode. Economic challenges may extend United States marijuana stock woes. If you look at the S&P 500 versus the MSOS, that is the ETF, that is an exchange-traded fund for the publicly traded, quote-unquote, publicly traded cannabis companies in the United States, you can see that marijuana stocks are down 70% since February of 2021, but the S&P 500 is up ever so slightly. It just goes to show that I guess nobody wants to buy the MSOS, or nobody wants the publicly traded cannabis companies,
Well, until it becomes very legal. But I think, this also goes to show that you don't put pot stocks in your retirement. You don't plan on it to say this is going to be my Bitcoin, because that's only going to happen after federal legalization. And even then, hopefully those MSOs, they'll raise, just because right now it's a monopoly. So after you have to do fair capitalism and compete with good product at low price points, I don't know who's going to be who's doing it now the right way. That's the question, right? I don't know.
Right. Yep. No, it's tough out there. I mean, if you're trying to raise money in the cannabis space, a variety of economic factors are exacerbating this negative market sentiment. You have a slowdown in revenue in key marijuana markets. Still waiting for New Jersey, and New Jersey's open now. They are selling. But is New York starting to sell yet? No, they are not. That would also help. Another doubling the number of dispensaries in the state of Illinois, that would help, because then you have more available locations, and lowering the price as well. That would also help. Let's see, rising inflation. People have less money in their pocket because they're putting it in their gas tank, and then or in the grocery store, because everything has gone up. Tight capital, that's obvious. Recession fears, you also got that. And the war in Ukraine has jammed up mainstream cannabis industry supply chains. So it is a perfect storm of forces, which means we might be getting near a bottom. So you may want to consider dabbling in there, not necessarily going super long, but buying a couple of shares and watching it.
Well, I mean, it'd definitely be a good point. Like, now, if you're going to have $1,000 and put it aside and not look at it again, go buy a bunch of the $16 stock. But and again, it's not the long run, right? You can put that $1,000 in Tilray, and then Tilray up and ends next month. We don't know still, how these people are operating properly in the behind the scenes, because there is no real transparency in any of these big corporate MSO stuff. Right? There's some, right? I know in Washington State, there's been a couple of local companies that become MSOs, and those are the ones that are making money hand over fist, because they're doing business slowly. They're not trying to jump in the ocean with a big boat. They slowly got out there, and then it built as they've been going along, reinvesting in themselves. That's the ones who are making money, not these big ass MSOs. But, and again, it's like you were saying, the Amazon and where they bleed all the way until the end. So they got to keep bleeding until federal legalization is going to happen.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those deals where, what are you going to do? There's a lot of stuff in life that's beyond your control, and especially in legalization. We can do our best to put the word out there and to try to change hearts and minds, and also laws. But there's an army of people that are out there doing it, and I think they would have done it by now if there wasn't complete suppression of the industry and the movement by Google algorithms and by Facebook algorithms. And
I mean, the internet has done a lot to propel the legalization argument, right? Before there was the suppression as far as like, hey, 420, take a break.
420 everywhere, somebody. That 420 Somewhere segment was brought to you by Collateral Base. We are fast at work behind the scenes, getting our new staging areas set up and our new systems all put into place. We have some more automations that we've built in, and we are ready to get open for business again. And it's almost as busy when I am open for business as when the company's closed. And so it's one of those deals where good, thank you for wanting our help, but at the same time, just a second, we're trying to build something here, and we'll be open in a minute. But we'll have a great webinar releasing everything when they're ready. Do you remember, because you're from Seattle and you're my age, or my age bracket, the Windows 1995 tech demo fail?
No.
All right. Well, I kind of do when it, or any demo fails, like where Steve Jobs would be giving like a presentation, just goes completely off the rails. The stuff doesn't work,
Well, I mean, that happens all the time. Like, I know you're referencing an older one, but I can tell you one because I work in the tech industry, and I legit watched a Microsoft presentation for the Bing in the beginning, a long time ago, which was only, I mean, we're still talking like 6 years ago, but the guy had to use Google. He had hold on. He pulled up Google, still on the last thing you want to do is bring up the competitor search engine, but yet because your shit frozen. So yeah, I mean, this shit happens, and then you're gonna get through this. It's so weird that the automation is a good part of your market, and I'm glad that you're getting these people and helping people along the way, getting a business who are just. It's all of it's a gamble, no matter what, right? Whether you open a restaurant or you open up a weed store, you're gonna.
There's risk. There's the market risk. Like you open up you can imagine if you opened up a restaurant in December of 2019, what could go wrong?
Well, my buddy he's an event guy. Like he was about to have the best event of his life. He was about to host a big hip hop show at the Hard Rock Cafe. He had a great headliner and a couple great sub show, performers, opening acts. And then, pandemic hit. The show kept getting put off. And I was like, dude, we got put off by a month now. Just to face it, we're gonna be buckling down for a while.
2 years later, what do you mean the case loads up again? Oh well, at least the point is never learn your lesson. That's the point. Yeah.
You just don't know, but all you can do is try. You don't want to be at a point where you're like, what if, right? Like, sometimes
you want to live your whole life and not take that shot.
I mean, unless you're happy where you're at. I mean, if you're happy what you're doing, then do that. But if you want to take the next level, go to the next step, do the next thing, you have to invest in yourself, whether it be time and whether it be the money to learn about the things that you want to learn about, period. But we got some international news.
Hey, let's hit an international bumper and talk about something.
All right. Got Argentina makes medical cannabis reform a national priority. I thought it said party when I first saw this.
That's it, man.
Argentina's gonna be lit.
Argentina is a fun time right about now. And no, it's not just the German lawmakers that are deciding that cannabis reform needs to go front and center to the top of the political agenda. Argentina has an agreement between the ruling party and the opposition that will now put medical cannabis reform on their docket. That's fantastic. So they call it the Chamber of Deputies down there in Argentina's government. And so that must be like one of our, what do they call it, committees that we have here as opposed to chambers. And they've only met once this year, and they met to discuss cannabis reform, and they do. And the bill on the table includes regulations to create a framework for the development of medical cannabis and industrial hemp industry. So they don't even have an industrial hemp industry in Argentina.
That's going to be so much money for them if they can figure out how to do the exporting part.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It would be fun. I would like to see some Argentinian weed. Why not? They have wine. And so if they have wine areas, they probably have areas that can grow very high quality cannabis as well.
Well, again, you talked about terroirs, so I'm definitely going to have some pretty awesome weed. I imagine some land races are probably from down south too.
Yeah, land races, those are interesting. Those are really interesting. How did it get on both continents or all over the country, the world? But then same question for people, right?
Or better yet, you're just like, is this weed the same weed they smoked 2,000 years ago?
Or it's the same water they drank 2,000 years ago. This is some ancient stuff right here.
And fish pee.
Hopefully they filtered that out.
We got some Mississippi news. Is that what's next?
Oh, let's see. Do we got a bumper on
trending.
We got a trending bumper for this whole Mississippi thing. Yeah, we're going to update Mississippi here real quick. You got the bumper to hit? Miggy and Tom are here with some cannabis legalization news out of Mississippi. Many cities and municipalities and counties have opted out of medical cannabis, being reported by MJ Biz Daily.
Right. Well, go figure, Mississippi. But
nearly 4 dozen Mississippi municipalities and counties have opted out of the state's new medical marijuana program, with a deadline for doing so in only a few days. The Biloxi Sun Herald has said that at least 28 cities and 16 counties have decided to opt out before the May 10th deadline. And so they must choose to opt out of all MMJ operations. Of course, MMJ is acronym for medical marijuana. The 2022 fact book, that is an advertisement for MJ Biz. No big deal on that. We've had their former, maybe he's still the CEO. They sold to a different media conglomerate.
Yeah, for a shit ton of money.
There's no state cap on licensing. That is fantastic. Of course, that may also not be the case. Like, what happens if Governor Tate says we're only going to issue this many? Well, for this round, there'll be a new round after this many. Maybe.
Applications open in June.
Applications are supposed to open in June. So far, though, but I've been like scouring this one, and we just keep waiting for regulations. So right now, they still have just the same ones: testing, advertising, marketing, and work permits. There's still not been any updates. And so everybody that calls me from Mississippi is like, have you seen that? I'm like, yeah, I've seen that. And so that we both are like, I can't believe it. Like, why are they just not? And then it's like, but Governor Tate Reeves, you're like, oh, right, he hates stuff.
Well, that, and they need to just give him a cocktail party. Just get them all drunk and just say, all right, let's make rules.
Well, no, you need to give the governor a fundraiser. That's what you need. Cocktails. They love cocktails almost as much as they like hearing their own name and fundraisers
on awards.
So that's one of the things. But yeah, I hope that I've subscribed to their email updates. And, if you haven't subscribed to ours, you can over at cannabisindustrylawyer.com, or you can go over to cannabislegalizationnews.com and sign up for our emails. One just went out today. We send them on Wednesdays and Sundays. That's when we send the emails.
Guarantee they change the note, though, once they start seeing other people make money. Like Mississippi's such a poor state, and there's no industry and no I was in Biloxi for the military, and there's only bases and like lost hopes in Mississippi. Like a casino in Biloxi. Like, there's not anything, but I can imagine it's a beautiful place, though. Great barbecue, just ain't shit the way you make money. Like, there's no yep.
Well, it could be an open, vibrant New Mexico or Oklahoma-esque licensing structure, and then we could have, like a civil war between the open states and the limited market states. Where have we heard this before? Oh, right, history. But it was much worse back then. At least now it's about how to legalize it, as opposed to what it was about back then. That was just despicable.
Yeah, well, still, it's one of the things that's hurting our nation, our people, is prohibition, right? It's this bullshit rule that's been done more harm than good.
Yes, to doing more harm than good, or as the
Cheers.
Yeah, that one cheers was from The Simpsons. Gentlemen to evil. I can't remember who was doing the cheers thing. It may have been the Republican Party, but the Simpsons like to make fun of them mercilessly.
Simpsons are witches. They can talk the future.
They can. Let's go back to the old show notes to see what else is going on. We haven't gotten to several of the things.
I think we got a strain.
Oh, we did fix the Name That Strain kerfluffle, and so we can now play the Name That Strain so very, very well. The game that we've all come to enjoy from the Cannabis Legalization News Podcast. Just a second. We'll be right back. Isn't that a pretty strain?
like
Its strain
dark.
is pretty. I bet it may have. I've never had this strain that I am aware of. That's one of the problems with strains, unless you're going to. No, you need a regular market, but then you need access to the strains. And there's thousands of strains, you know.
That's a pretty well. So that's a regional one, but it's also like a big regional one that people have picked up and taken to out of state. Like I know, I have smoked that going through that place. It was pretty cool. I felt very meta.
It's named after a location, but then like I've also seen, I figured it looked sweet because of how purple it is, and then it's got a lot of stigma and pistil. No, stigma's not pistils. Some little sugar leaves are still on there, but they've been trimmed back pretty well, and it doesn't look like it's been all beat up. So like the pistils are still intact on the nugget itself. Pretty frosty. And yeah, let's see here.
Almost.
Indica. We got it?
No, almost. So that's also close to where the Ganjier program's at.
Yeah, it is, and it's close to there, but it's one county over, I'd say.
Yeah.
They also make wine so the first name of it is an abbreviation of a county in California. There you go. That's a hint.
It's a really good smoke, though. I can testify that it's a very enjoyable, very good high.
Good high.
It's a good high.
Not a bad high. A good one. You know, the bad ones, screw those, but the good ones.
Yeah. So close.
Oh, so close. Highly elevated is so darn close on that one. So flipping close. It is not the perps or the pumps, but you got the first word right. So partial credit, dude. For more partial credit, head on over to facebook.com/free THC. You might have to actually type it in there because if you search marijuana on Facebook, surprise, surprise, nothing comes up. Did you know that? Let alone our page.
Yeah.
But that's where he likes to share his dank memes. And Highly Elevated ups his ante to Mendo Breath. Shout out to him. That's right. That's Mendo Breath. Miggy, you want to read about the strain?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
No, I got it. Mendo Breath is an indica marijuana strain made by crossing OGKB with Mendo Montage. The strain produces a euphoric high with body effects that help relieve pain and discomfort. Mendo Breath smells like sweet vanilla and caramel. While it may be tempting to smoke the strain during the day, it's important to stay for after work or before bed. It may be sedating. Growers say Mendo Breath comes in dense, frosty buds and has an average flowering time of 8 weeks. Pretty sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we have a pretty interesting weed history on tap for you guys all today. So why don't you settle back in and let's make sure that we have the displays on this one, because sometimes the historical pieces, they don't have the more sophisticated, responsive web designs sites that other ones do. So it creates like a good user experience. And let's see here. I'm going to hit accept to their privacy policy because I haven't been to this site before. And then we'll just take that off over to the bands. Hey, Miggy, what do you know about weed history when it comes to, like, you know, ancient Egypt?
Absolutely nothing. But according to this article on Canada,
absolutely nothing, you say? Well, you know what? Let's educate ourselves after I get rid of these interstitial pop-ups. And there you go. Ancient Egypt's rich history of medical cannabis, brought to you by the Canigma, the website that has all the ads going. And so Thomas Wong has written this one. In Egypt, we think that medical cannabis use goes back for millennia. Now, for any of you who was born after the year 2000, that basically means 1,000 in Latin.
Oh man, and I guarantee you, we found it. You know, it's the anointing oil. You know, it's been around for thousands of years. This plant that, I mean, and sailors you know used it in their sails and paper and yeah. So what did the Egyptians use it for?
Well, there it goes. The Egyptians exemplified a truly holistic use of the plant, and even possibly cannabis. Egyptian hieroglyphs called it Shemshebet and it became popular before the Great Pyramids were even constructed. So the human beings have been using Semchemet for many, many years, for millennia, for example. And then Egypt's historical use of Semchemet appears twofold. It was a hand, hemp that may have been used for fiber textile, and then on the other hand, more psychoactive that may have been used medicinally, like, for example, hash.
It's just amazing how we've deterred from our inner man, our inner, like just away. Like we're so supposedly sophisticated now and I want to say educated and tech savvy, but yet we diverted from this natural plant that has given us so much clothing, anti-inflammatory qualities, a good Friday night. There's just so much good about this damn plant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cannabis salves. Yeah. You know what I like sometimes? A silent L. I just like a good silent L every now and then. You can't even hear it.
Salve is a very effed up word.
Salves.
Yeah.
Salves or salves. All right. Well, we're gonna go get an etymologist behind this. But 2000 BCE, that is, I believe, 4,000 years ago, they used salves for eye sores and glaucoma.
They even have formulas for feminine health.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so formula number 821, Shemshemet, was to be ground in honey, introduced in her vagina to cool the uterus and eliminate steam. You need to.
They have all the ads. So we've gotten far enough into this. See, this is the type of content that you should write, because this type of content is what we call sticky, and then people go to it and then they learn more because they're nerding out about formula number 821 of Shemshemet. Go ahead, Miggy, what's in that?
It's a quarter of honey, quarter of okra, or no, 1/64 of okra, 1/32 of cannabis, another, what is 1/32? Heju resin, 1/32 ibu plant, and prepare as for the proceeding and dress the affected area. So apparently, like, it's supposed to cool the vagina, though? Like, I don't understand. Why is it hot?
Maybe it was inflamed.
Oh,
and so the Berlin Papyri, which is a newer scroll, points towards the evolution of cannabis as medicine, and it wasn't just good for eye problems, feminine issues, or inflamed extremities, but it could be used to treat fever and inflammation too. Papyri 81st formula shows that cannabis was prescribed as an ointment to prepare for driving away fever. Today, modern medicine has the same types of things with anti-inflammatory medicines, for example, Tylenol or Advil or Aleve, naproxen sodium. You have a fever, what do? Well, you take some anti-inflammatories, and according to the Berlin Papyri, a scroll found in Egypt on and around 3,300 years ago, they were using Shemshemet for anti-inflammatory.
Oh, I can't take it serious.
But I love the history of cannabis, where you can just look at it and you go, how come most people don't know this? Because it's illegal. Don't talk about it.
Seriously, it's a very well searched out article. I have to give them props. A lot of times historical shit's boring, but it's a very well researched and thought out article. So I encourage you to read it if you're into history.
Yep. And then if you also like interstitial ads or videos that automatically start playing while you're learning your stuff, you're going to love the Canigma.com.
Well, the pop-up blocker mine was doing its job. So I think
I'm not sure if my pop-up blocker is on, because we do a lot of development. And so there's a lot of interstitials that you don't want to be blocked. You want those to come up, and then you save or go through them, or you're testing them. Good stuff.
No, I feel it. You have to keep it on there for practical purposes, whereas I'm like,
Well, it's just out there working. And speaking of working, we really enjoy all the people tuning in. Our members and the people that download the podcast. Remember to take us with you in your cars so that you can stay on top of Shemshemet and Papyri 81. And weed. And so, but we have some news, which isn't shit that I wasn't expecting. It's stuff that is kind of to be expected, and we're going to get to that because we're also going to be starting to back this up on a new channel that we'll talk about here in just a minute. Hey, Mickey, you know what I wasn't expecting?
What's that?
I was not expecting cannabis YouTuber Chrissy Harless's channel to be deleted without explanation. She's got 46,000 subscribers.
Ouch.
That's like more subscribers than we have by
yeah.
a lot, by like over 10,000. And our subscriber count has really slowed down, I've noticed. It's like they're watching you. But at the same time, maybe not. However, then why was she just recently axed at 46,000 for violating community guidelines? Always comply with the community guidelines, because we're only trying to educate and inform and to fix a very important thing that has happened in the world. This plant was made into a crime.
Well, even
that was wrong.
Yeah. But even to entertain, like, I mean, I don't know what she was doing, and I don't know how.
Oh, she's one of those box openers.
Oh, so it's horrible. So, but even like with like Dope Yolo, you know, he's got 1 million subscribers, right? And
yeah,
that's why it's like
they deleted him.
Yeah, they deleted him. They gave him back eventually, but you know, how do you get around something? Every time we don't consume, we get flagged for 18 plus. I wouldn't mind doing consumption videos, but then again, it's not a big deal to me because a consumption video is just like my Tuesday day, my Friday night. You know, it's my every day. You know, like it would be just me smoking and talking, right?
Yep.
But that would get flagged.
It could be. But then, like, you know, Berners also announced he's got his own CLN, but his stands for Couch Lock Network. We're going to get a trademark guy on and do a show on it. And so this YouTuber, you know, in an interview on April 5th with WeedTube founder Arnett Richard, you see, all these WeedTubers are people who in 2018 got banned. And so now they're over there. We're going to be uploading our show over there. Lauren from the show last year, she created an account and never used it. And so, you know, now we'll start using it and backing the show up. And so you can check us out on WeedTube. And then for the clips, we're going to have clips on our backup channel. And so it'll be a clip channel just in case one day you wake up, we're not there.
It happens.
Well, let's see. Let's talk about the hypocrisy, though, real quick. Yeah. Let's see here. YouTube is able to promote gambling ads online, pharmaceutical ads online, alcohol. YouTube is able to accept money from those advertisers to promote their ads. They're all regulated industries as well, but the content creator isn't allowed to do the same. I don't even glorify it. I don't overconsume. It's all educational. Usually consists of reviews and unboxing videos for cannabis-related products. There you go. It's the double standard, and it all arises from none of those things are Schedule I drugs, and cannabis is for no good reason.
Oh yeah, but you know, if we were a channel where we were doing keg stands and you know showing people how to do shotguns and you know off a beer and doing shots and all the other things that people do when they drink, you know, I used to get offended by those guys for the cannabis content guys like Custom Grow 420 because his videos were used in a demonstration against medical in the Capitol, and you know, it took me a while to get over it, where it's like these guys really aren't doing any harm. They're 21 and over. If they're active adults doing their own thing, you know what? People like to watch stupid shit. You do you, boo-boo. But the fact that YouTube chooses to have this judgment on cannabis, like, you know, the only ones that should be getting flagged are probably 21 and under, and I hate to even draw a line to say,
well, you know, the underage use, but then also the stupid, gratuitous, dangerous use. Those should be flagged, absolutely. But then the content regarding how to obtain a legal license pursuant to your own state's laws and understand why the federal law is complete cuckoo wacko bananas, that shouldn't be deleted or censored. You should use that to change the law so that you can actually take new advertising revenue from cannabis companies. You know, but I digress. And then one of the things is this has prompted WeedTube, and we got to have them. We're going to have to extend an open invite for the WeedTube founders to come on and talk about WeedTube. So that's, I believe, Arnett Richard or Arend. I'm not sure how he pronounces it. Maybe you can tell us. So he began a campaign to bring attention to the censorship on Instagram, and I'd say the censorship that's algorithmic, not just Instagram. It's everywhere. You know.
No, it's lazy code because it's taking the safe way out, like because it's a federal crime. we're just going to check this little mark and not even worry about people's lives and people getting flagged or even people trying to promote a business that's perfectly legal in their state. No, it's a federal crime, so it's easier for us just to go, not equals, but greater to than, or whatever the case is, to heroin or any of these other bullshit drugs out there, right? Better living through chemistry is, an understanding that, like, penicillin's great. People smoke cigarettes. Everything we take in our body is a thing, and cannabis is just another one of those things. It's not even and again, it's a big who-to-do in the end when people realize, like, this plant, this thing, the consumers, it's not the plant that makes people lazy. People are just lazy. It's up to, accountability of the individual, not the goddamn plant.
That's right. And when people are just lazy, well, just ban it all. I don't have to think anymore. It's just all illegal. Well, that doesn't work, right? I don't have to. It's illegal. It won't be done. Ha-ha. And it's like, oh, gosh, I'm dealing with an idiot. Yeah, but he's the mayor. Oh,
seriously,
crap,
though. Yeah. Or whoever's in, the business. And again, it's the easiest choice of business. That's why my activism has been so easy when people, like, ask you questions about, like, hey, can I smoke weed on an airplane? You're like, no, that's just basic common decency. Like, you can't smoke cigarettes, you can't smoke weed. Or, can I take it on the plane? Well, now it gets questionable. Now it gets into, like, what state you coming from. The TSA said this, but also they've done this. There's still this big gray area around the goddamn plant. It's stupid.
Yep. And that is, and now we're going to do a little conclusion here for our broadcast for the middle of May in 2022. And, again, thank you so much. If you guys are a member of the channel, we should, to the extent that we can, answer your questions. So if anybody's in the chat, and sees one of the members ask a question, let us know. Or if you throw some money at us, we don't necessarily always see it, but then we'll kind of interact and answer some questions. But let's wrap this up. Are we on Twitter? You can follow me at Tom Weedlaw, and so there's that. I don't Twitter very much, but now that it's owned by Elon Musk, maybe I'll actually learn that algorithm. Haven't yet. Okay. How do we do this one? I'm going to get this one all set up. We have an example and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so let's throw to it, man. Let's see here. It's this one. What's up, everybody? Me, cannabis industry lawyer, here with another How to Cannabis segment. You may be with pie in the sky dreams, thinking about how much money your dispensary is going to be making. Oh my gosh, you're going to be so rich. Okay, well, I don't mean to bring you down to earth, but I do need to clarify one particular provision of the tax code that only really applies to you, Mr. Dispensary owner, much more than if you actually owned any of the other aspects of the supply chain, which would have made the goods. So, hey, let's bring Miggy on, and then let's talk a little bit about how IRC 280E works for your cannabis company. I mean, Miggy, as somebody who's on the outside trying to get in, have you ever heard of IRC 280E?
Yeah, and I thought that was for anybody that touched the plant, they couldn't use it. So you're saying a store owner, someone who has a brick and mortar, can use it?
No, it's we need to talk a little bit about it. It has to do with when does it become inventory and trafficking, and when are you making it into that inventory. And so if you're starting with a seed, or if you're starting with biomass, and then you're going to do some extraction, or you're going to do some cultivation, well, you're creating the good that will be sold. And because you're creating the good that will be sold, they did not pass IRC 280E to prohibit that aspect of the expenses being declared non-deductible business expenses. It's the only legitimate business expense in the illegitimate, contraband material, or contraband substance, drug industry. Well, so that's where it is. It's the cost of goods or the cost of trafficking.
How about, like, an example? Say I'm a tomato farmer, right? And tax season's coming up and filing. As a tomato farmer, I can write off the cost of the goods, right? Like the picks and shovels, maybe the soil dirt that I had to buy for the soil,
the help workers, seeds. workers, material. Like, okay, you can do all that.
Yeah.
But what about your marketing dollars? Can you deduct those?
As a tomato farmer, yes, right?
No, because you're good. The tomato doesn't need that logo slapped on it that says buy Morningstar tomatoes. That's a trafficking expense. That's when the expenses that you have become non-deductible, and that's why your marijuana dispensaries, cannabis dispensaries, they are the most heavily taxed, because that truly is the trafficking in the substance. You are literally selling it at a retail location and welcoming people in a retail transaction. That is the definition of trafficking. And as such, you can deduct the costs that you paid for your inventory, and maybe your inventory manager, because he's doing all the stocking and shelves and stuff. But after that, it's trafficking. And there you go. And so, like, if you are a dispensary, Marijuana Moment has a couple of neat things that we're going to discuss here. This is recent. So this isn't just How to Cannabis. This is May 11th, 2022, How to Cannabis. And so the IRS provided a hypothetical example to illustrate the distinction of what happens when the marijuana retailer, of course, that is the dispensary license, the pot shop that they have in Washington State. And I'm going to just zoom in one more time. And so a marijuana retailer has a gross revenue of $1 million. Pretty cool. It spent $750 on COGS and incurred another $200 large in business expenses, which are non-deductible per Section 280E. Assuming a 30% effective tax rate, the marijuana retailer has a federal tax burden of $75,000. $250,000 times taxable income of 0.3. Had the business been allowed to deduct the other $200,000 of business expenses, its tax burden would have been reduced to $15,000. $50,000 of taxable income at 0.3. So you know how, and this might not be something, now if you're an entrepreneur watching this, great, and you have an S-Corp, and you probably know this, you can use salaries to soak up profits. And so that's one thing that they'd be able to do then as well, is you can use that salary, and then eventually there becomes a point where you have to justify the reasonableness of the salary, but you don't even want to do that if you own a dispensary. You don't want to do any salaries to yourself. You almost just want to take all of it as a distribution if you can, because you're going to have to pay the taxes first, and then you have to deduct everything. And then again, if you were working there and that was your job, shit, you should be getting a salary, right?
Those numbers though, man. So they made $1 million profit. They had to put
revenue top line.
Okay, revenue top line, and then 750 is what they had to put into it, right?
Yep, that was your inventory.
And then 200 was what?
250 was, or I think it was $1,700,000, and so like it was $300,000 worth of profit, and then that gave the taxable aspect. No, it was 750. So that gave the taxable aspect, and then a 30% tax rate. So that 250 times 0.3 is the taxable burden of $75,000. So your taxes aren't twice as high.
Well, I'm just
they aren't even 4 times as high. They're 5 times higher under this hypothetical that the taxpayeradvocate.irs.gov just did a blog post on May 11th regarding this. Despite operating legally in many states, marijuana-related businesses face significant federal income tax law challenges. And it's just how it is. And there they are. As a national taxpayer advocate, I am voice of all taxpayers within the IRS. As such, my office assists many different types of taxpayers resolving problems with the IRS.
But on that first one, back into those numbers in a Marijuana Moment article, the 750 and then the 200 on top of that, so that's 950. So there's 50,000 in profit only. And this seems like a very good business model. I mean, if you're only making 50,000 profit with that kind of money invested.
Well, actually, that's a little bit high. I've heard that the average profit margin for a dispensary is about 12%, and so that one has it at 20. And this is just another reason. And this is the How to Cannabis section. So, like, please smash some likes and then check out our playlist, How to Cannabis. But that has to do with, why it's only that 12%. In the IRS's example here, they have the business being 20% profit, because you have a tax burden to $15,000, $75,000. So you have a $75,000 tax burden. and then you have to add the 75 to the 750. So what are you at? 825?
Yeah, I mean, it's not
825, and so then the 825 at a million. So where you're at 12.5% exactly. So it's a very I mean, like, yeah, they audit all the dispensaries. They know your numbers.
Yeah.
And so that's why you can look at it and be like, there you go. 12.5% is what the profit margin is, but nowhere near what it would be if that tax didn't exist, you know?
Oh, for sure. Oh, God, no. I mean, again, why is it that a $10 gram, I was able to buy a gram for $10 in the medical time, and then $10 gram in the recreational time? The thing is, at the beginning, the quality and quantity didn't match. I mean, it's still not there 100%, but, and that's because of taxes, because these guys are still fighting against taxes in the recreational versus medical. The tax they charge is the in-between guy. That's your tax, not the nothing else.
Yeah, well, it's something else. I just wanted to thank everybody for hanging out with us on another wonderful episode of Cannabis Legalization News. Yeah, we had a couple. I mean, like we used to get hundreds, but now at least we're getting out there a little bit. We're going to get a board that says so many days since we've been disqualified. And then I think with the clips, I think we were also publishing too much. And so like that episode, like this episode will have a couple of days to marinate and get further out and more views. So it might be better that respect. And then if you don't have time to watch the whole thing, go check out the clips show.
I think that got confusing. I think we just started doing the clips, so people assume that we're doing shows every day, but it was just clips from our Sunday show. So, and I really still need to put more content out. I mean, I got so many thumbnails that I've made. I just haven't had time to actually contribute and just to do lives. I enjoy hanging out with people.
What it's like, you know, when you have full-time jobs, and then it's nice that we have a couple hours a week to shoot the shit, and then put this stuff together. But you know, it's marketing for my firm, and then you know, maybe it'll be marketing for your company one day soon. Who knows? Yeah. But go ahead and visit us at facebook.com/freethc or at cannabisindustrylawyer.com.
Smoke them if you got them.
Smoke them if you got them.
Right. Oh, I like money.
Yep.